What's up, everyone, and welcome to Variant the Podcast. I do want to say before we get into this today, it's kind of a little slow week for news.
It has been.
Yeah, but I mean, there's been so much coming out.
Yeah.
So, although there is people in full force trying to get news on Matt Reeves' The Batman movie.
They're camping out.
Dude, there was a picture that leaked online yesterday. Someone, he was finally in his bat suit because they're filming in the streets with him in his bat suit, and they threw a blanket over him, but you could see like the shape of his bat suit. Mm-hmm. That got all the internet buzzing yesterday. I got to say this, you can't see anything, but the shape looks pretty cool. It looks buff, kind of like Batfleck, and the ears seem a little longer, but people are desperate to get some bat suit and Batmobile action for this movie.
I didn't see the image before it got taken down, and I haven't searched it out, but you say he looks thick.
He looks thick, yeah,
Batfleck.
Like shoulders of it look very broad, because again, it was like draping over him, so it looked like, again, I don't know if this was misdirection or not, but from the picture I saw, it looked like it's going to be like that BVS kind of thickness of Batsuit, like a gorilla of a Batman. And then the ears are a little longer, kind of like Christian Bale's Batman, where it's like mid-length.
Oh, okay.
So, but I'm very, very curious to see what that's going to look like.
We're not getting a full Batman and Robin ear length.
No, we're not.
It's like 12 inches off his head.
Long Halloween style, although that would be interesting. I don't know how that would translate live action, but
I don't know if that would look good.
Make it work.
Yeah, I guess.
But like I said, we don't have that much news to talk about today. But before we get into the news we do have to talk about, we want to thank today's sponsor.
Yeah, absolutely. Today's episode is actually sponsored by the people over at Rode. They've been friends of ours and the Triune Films as a whole for a lot of years. Yep. We use a ton of their gear and equipment. In fact, everything that we're recording this podcast on here in the studio, as well as several other the other podcasts we do with Film Riot and the other shows that we work on, we use Rode microphones, and all this gear is absolutely freaking awesome. Rode Microphones, the Australian pro audio powerhouse, makes incredible gear for podcasters, vloggers, filmmakers, musicians, and audio engineers. And like I said, this show actually is being fully recorded on the Rodecaster Pro, which is the world's first fully integrated podcast production console. So, it's got 4 mic channels, 8 sound pads for triggering effects and music, and the ability to bring in phone and Skype calls. It's got a powerful onboard audio processing, and it's the perfect solution when you're just getting into podcasting or you're a seasoned pro. So they've got pretty much something for everybody, whether you're just getting started or you've been doing this a really long time. Rode Microphones has pretty much whatever you need to get going. So thanks to Rode for sponsoring the show.
And making our audio sound so clear and
making us sound so pretty.
But with that said, let's get into some news. Now, there's something I've been wanting to talk about for last week. I texted you right away as it happened because I literally was like, they did it, Tim. They did it. They freaking did it. Now, anyone who's been listening to this podcast or watching Variant for a while, actually, the first podcast we ever did, podcast issue 0, or number 0, if you will, a long time ago when we were recapping San Diego Comic-Con, I think it was 2018. I believe it was that long ago.
Was it? No.
Was it 2019?
It was 2019.
Was it 2019? Yeah. Okay, podcast 0, whatever. That one, where I've been very vocal on the show in general that I think the smartest thing I think the DCEU could do, since they've been having a lot of complaints and issues over the past years, would be using the Flashpoint movie, right? Doing a Flashpoint movie, which apparently they're doing. We talked about on last week's podcast that the director is still loosely going to be telling a story based on Flashpoint. But what I said to bring fans kind of back in, like the diehards who are, a little disappointed with this stuff, would be when you have the Flash going through the time stream, time traveling or what have you, that is your opportunity to where he's passing through. He could see all the different Earths and connect it all together, So bring in like Reeves Superman, Christian Bale Batman. Like I've even joked, I was like, I'll take Val Kilmer freaking Batman. I want to see that. You know what I mean? Like anything and everything is fair game because it's part of the multiverse. So even if stuff you don't necessarily like, you'd be like, yeah, but that's Earth 54. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I've been very vocal about that. I think that would be tremendous fan service. It would link everything the DC and Warner Brothers have ever done with their live action stuff, and it would just be amazing. So Crisis on Infinite Earths. It was a 5-part crossover on CW. We had tons of cameos and Easter eggs throughout the 5 episode event. We saw Burt Ward reprise his role as Robin. We saw the Titans universe, Doom Patrol, Swamp Thing, Lucifer, all sorts of fun Easter eggs, Green Lantern, all sorts of stuff. But my favorite one by far was, I believe, I think it was episode 4. freaking Ezra Miller Flash from the DCEU made a cameo in that episode with Grant Gustin, 2 Flashes standing side by side. Right. I call it, the Flash of Two Worlds, just like the famous crossover with Jay Garrick and Barry Allen from the comic books. Even though it was only a 1:30 scene, and you say what you will about it, whether it was goofy or whatnot, it was so cool to see them bring the DCEU into the CW. Like Ezra, like he is a movie actor.
Yeah.
Ezra Miller doesn't, do TV much, if at all. I mean, he's in the freaking Fantastic Beasts franchise. Mm-hmm. He was in some indie movie that was really good a few years ago. Obviously, he's the Flash now in Justice League. He's a big actor. You know what I mean? So they got him to be right there with Grant Gustin and reference Justice League. Like literally, as he disappears, he said, "I told Victor this was possible." Like the time travel stuff, like so, like literally tied into where when they do the Flash solo movie in 2022, you could probably come back to this and like tie that even in with the movie. Right. So like, I reckon I saw another Flash. Right. And it was just, it was what I wanted. They did it. So now if they continue this and go full force and even acknowledge that in a solo movie, fanboying hard. I just think it was just so cool to give fan service like that and see 2 Flashes standing side by side, especially, you got like the Flash, the CW Flash, which has been very, very popular over for the past several years. And then, you have the movie blockbuster Ezra Miller Flash. Mm-hmm. Very, very cool.
Yeah, and I can confirm 2 things. Okay. One, that you fanboyed the freak out. He was texting me. They freaking did it. Dude. They freaking did it. And and that was quite entertaining for me. So, and the second thing is that you have been, like you mentioned, you've been calling for that sort of a thing from DC and Warner for a couple of years. So to see them do that, it really confirms that Google has our phones bugged.
No, for sure. Someone listening somewhere. Yeah. But what's really funny too is that he kind of like Ezra Miller Flash threw shade a little bit at Grant Gustin Flash. Where he's
cosplay.
Is that cosplay? I'm like, oh, that was savage.
And I did say to you, having the film, which I wasn't the biggest fan of the film Flash costume with Ezra Miller's Flash, or Snyder's Flash, I should say. I wasn't the biggest fan of that costume. It was okay.
Right.
But when you saw the film quality Flash costume next to the CW Flash, it really made it stand out, like at how kind of little party city that the Flash costume is from the CW Flash. So I was like, oh, wow, side by side. That's not a good look.
Yeah, it was so cool seeing them next to each other. I've actually, one of the things I like most about the DCU is the costume designs. I will say that is one of my favorite aspects. I think the Aquaman suit looks great. I mean, it's basically ripped right out of the comics. Obviously, Batfleck's bat suit is, up until now, we'll see how Pattinson's bat suit looks, but that is like by far, I think, the best live action bat suit ever. It's beefy, it's chunky. Dark Knight Returns, Jim Lee mixture, very, very good. Superman's got a great costume. I like Wonder Woman. Pretty much all the costumes. The ones that got sketchy for me were the Suicide Squad ones a little bit. I was like,
Yeah. Well, I'm not going to go down that road.
But what I'll say is I like the Flash costume. To me, it is very Injustice-esque, where it's like armor plating. Right. But we still know, too, from the Justice League movie, that this is just the first version. Yeah. It's going to be perfected in his solo movie and probably looked a little more streamlined and stuff like that.
I am still not convinced that Ezra Miller is going to come back as the Flash. I don't care.
This crossover confirmed it.
Yeah, but they could go so many different directions with that. We don't know what this confirms. We don't know if this is even going to bleed into the Flashpoint thing, or if this is going to be just a standalone cool thing that they wanted to do for the fans, after the debacle of the Snyderverse. Not necessarily the Snyderverse itself, but just how it all fell apart and the whole deal. So we don't really know what it's going to do, and that's what is kind of, you can assume. I would have to assume that they have some sort of intention for it. Well, but there's no guarantee. If we know anything about Warner Brother and DC at this point, is that there's no guarantee of anything.
Well, this is the next thing I was going to bring up, which is why I think, it basically does confirm it, because I don't know if you saw, there's been news headlines from several sites online that said Warner Brothers came up with the idea to include Flash in the DCEU crossover for CW, like Warner. So it was apparently last minute. It's an article I have here right now that basically says, let's see what we got here. So Warner Brothers basically, so the CW said, we were wrapped with the series for the crossover, the whole series, and then basically they had just a soft lock, right? But then they got a phone call from Warner Brothers, Peter Roth, saying, I know you're locked, but can you put Ezra into the crossover? And then one of the showrunners for CW was like, yes. And he's like, but I thought you were wrapped. And he's like, yeah, but you're telling me I can get Ezra Miller? We're going to make it happen.
Yeah.
So I think it's funny, and it's something to be said, that Warner Brothers, one of the heads at Warner Brothers, was like, hey, I know you're wrapped, but could you put Ezra Miller in it for like a minute? And they did it. So that's got to be telling that he's the Flash.
You would imagine. I mean, if they're specifically requesting it, not just throwing it out there like, hey, this would be cool. If they're requesting it, there has to be some kind of reasoning for it. Because there is no clear course, I'm just like, yeah, that makes sense. It makes sense that they would do that, that this would have some sort of intentionality to it and it would be purposeful. But again, there's so much turnaround at Warner Brothers all the time, or turnover rather. And so you just never fully know. Now they did just sign on J.J. Abrams to that big deal, and they do have, it does seem like they're getting some things in place like we've been talking about a lot. But I'm like, I don't know. I guess we'll find out when we find out, because they're just being so unclear about everything.
Yeah. So you don't see this as like a kind of like a little like
it could
like a little confirmation,
because this is why I say that, because like they're basically doing away with the entire Snyderverse in what they're saying, but then they're keeping Wonder Woman because it makes money. They're keeping Aquaman because it makes money, and then Flash was off, then it was on. Then it was off, then it was on.
Well, Flash had a lot of problems with its director, though.
Yeah, but they also, remember, they were going to go, it was going to be a Flash solo movie. Then it was Flashpoint, and everybody was excited about that. Then they said it's not going to be Flashpoint. Then, no, just kidding, it is Flashpoint, and we're keeping Ezra Miller, we think.
It's
like you're getting rid of the Snyderverse, but you're keeping half the Snyderverse, but you're instituting new stuff. You're doing new Batman. You're doing, you know what I'm saying? It's all over the place. So until they come up with some sort of a clear...
You're like a non-believer. You're like, no, I don't care. I'll see it when I see it.
It's just because I don't see a direction.
No, they definitely don't have a clear direction right now. I think Flashpoint, I feel like we talk about this, pretty often because it is kind of chaotic in the DCE right now. But I feel like Flashpoint will be their course correction, which is why I don't know why you would wait till 2022 to do it.
Exactly.
So that's kind of weird because we're already getting a second Wonder Woman this year. It just got confirmed that Shazam 2 will be shooting soon, possibly by end of this year. Aquaman 2, obviously it's $1 billion movie. We're getting that. And then Matt Reeves' Batman movie, which is most likely going to be a trilogy because it's probably going to be really good. So I don't, you could use the Flashpoint movie to bring all that together. But again, I don't know why you wouldn't lead with that. The only reason why I think you wouldn't lead with that is if you have concerns some of these newer movies aren't going to work, like Birds of Prey, even the Batman.
Which is carrying on from the first Suicide Squad, even though there's a reboot to Suicide Squad going on. I mean, that's all over the place.
Yeah, I don't know why. I don't know. Again, I'm just happy that we're going to be getting solid movies, at least. Right now, I'm not even so concerned. I mean, I am, but I'm trying to not be so concerned with the continuity of the synergy of the universe, and just, it's like, let's get just solo movies good, and then once you're just putting out good movies, then we could bring it all together.
Yeah, I mean, I would be quicker to go that route with you if it wasn't for the fact that you also have to have the ability to tie it all together somehow. And so, I mean, if the intention is we're going to use the Flashpoint and then we're just going to do literally whatever we want for the next like 2-3 years and have 2-3 different timelines, and it doesn't matter because we're just going to use the Flashpoint to explain that and bring it all together in some. But then it's like, okay, then once you do Flashpoint, then what? Is that like a center point and then everything goes in one direction from there?
Well, what's
or are they just going to stay scattered and just it's going to be explained by these are alternate universes?
I don't know. I mean, well, if they went the Flashpoint route, Flashpoint created the New 52, so it'd be a new world. They would just bring it all together, or the stuff they didn't like or didn't want to bring in, like the Joker movies. Are like, we can't. It's amazing, obviously, Oscar worthy, one of the best movies of 2019. But we're like, we can't necessarily fit that in with our tone of our DCEU, so they'll do that separately. Although I do think Wonder Woman 1984 is going to be very telling because it takes place in the 80s, so it was before the Justice League.
Right.
So I'm very curious to see if they're going to acknowledge Justice League and stuff like that, or they're just going to leave it standalone. Because technically they can acknowledge everything they want because it was before Justice League,
right?
So it wouldn't even mess anything up.
It's
going
before
forward.
Batman v Superman.
Yeah, exactly. So it wouldn't mess anything going forward, but it would definitely tell you where their headspace is with the Snyderverse and if they want to distance from that. So I think if we get no reference to Superman or Batman or an Easter egg of any sort for like a future movie, at least one that involves other DC characters, I think that's safe to say buried indefinitely, because I know some people are still holding hope.
Yeah,
but
I guess we'll find out soon enough. I'm just kind of like one movie at a time. So I'm not like, I think this is what they did with the CW for sure was really cool and fun for fans.
For sure.
That my biggest thing was after it happened, I was like, it was super cool. A lot of fans. I can see why DC fans are very excited to have gotten, but I feel like DC fans are like, they have Stockholm syndrome at the point.
Man.
Whereas just like, it's just been a little bit of abuse for a while, whereas like Marvel has had this decade of all of these films and, all this stuff that they're doing with the Disney Plus stuff. And, DC's had their animated movies and we've got, the Christopher Nolan Batman trilogy, which was really solid. And we got a couple movies here and there, but it's just been a lot all over the place. And, the CW Arrowverse, you can say what you want about whether you like it or not. That's cool. Everybody has different tastes or whatever, but there's no arguing it's a low budget, version of these characters and their stories. So, my biggest thing was if you're going to do something that cool, I just wish they would have done it on a bigger scale, I guess. Right. So still very cool, still really fun. Totally get why they do it. I think it's actually really cool and ballsy that they did it at all. But I just I wish I was like, man, if you're going to do something that cool, I wish you would have done it on a bigger scale.
I obviously agree as well. I just think, from a fan perspective, it still works in the sense that, like, because I said it earlier, like, if they did that in the Solo Flash movie when it comes out, like, I want even the quote unquote, not good versions of movies. Like, I want Val Kilmer Batman because it's the multiverse. So I think it all needs to be in there just like it would in the comic book. So that's why I'm kind of like, on the fanboy side where I'm like, it's just so cool because do I wish, it was like Disney Plus quality, Game of Thrones quality? Right. For sure, 100%. But I think they're slowly getting there, especially with HBO Max. And because that Green Lantern series, that's not going to be like low budget and all the other shows.
I can't imagine.
They're announcing. So I think we're finally getting there. We've talked about it all the time. I think we're going to see a changing of the tides.
I do too. I agree.
think DC is has been slowly rising, and I'm not saying Marvel's going to fall, but I don't know if they're going to be able to replicate that stupendous, incredible decade. That is the decade they had is something I will be, telling my kids and I will telling my grandkids. Like that is like an Indiana Jones, Star Wars level type. Like I was there for that, for Infinity War and stuff.
It was a milestone in cinematic history.
So to repeat that again, I don't know. And I think DC fans are getting hungrier and hungrier, and even just comic fans in general, because like we've had Iron Man and Captain America for so long. We want like a good, Green Lantern or a good Flash, because with these CW shows too, say what you will about them, they're bringing a lot of awareness to just general people. Yeah, like my mother-in-law loves DC Legends, loves the Flash, all these characters that years ago she'd be like, Batwoman who? Yeah. Like she had no idea who these characters were, and now she knows. So I think we're slowly getting there.
Yeah,
slowly.
I don't disagree, and I have been saying the same thing for a very long time. I do think it's going to be, at the bare minimum, I think there's going to be a balancing.
Yeah, for sure.
But I do think you're going to see a counter pendulum swing between the cinematic universes and the comics. Where Marvel is kind of seeing a rise in comics, and DC is kind of, trying to figure some things out. And I think we're going to see vice versa in the cinematic universe, where Marvel has dominated, and I think you're going to see them, like you said, it's just not going to be, it's going to be very, in my opinion, almost impossible to replicate
for sure
that decade. And if they get anywhere near close, kudos.
For sure.
That's incredible. So I'm optimistic. I'm just taking it one movie at a time.
Yeah. But speaking of Disney Plus, because we kind of mentioned it real quick in there, we keep forgetting to talk about a Disney Plus Star Wars series. We've talked about Star Wars so much, especially towards the last quarter of 2019. But for some reason, we didn't mention a live action Disney Plus series that is in development and we're gonna get eventually.
Yeah, someone actually, it was one of our commenters, one of you guys in the Variant Nation actually mentioned it, reminded us, and I saw the comment and I was like, oh my God, we totally forgot about that series, and that was announced at the same time as Obi-Wan.
Yeah, it was the Cassian series.
Yeah, the Cassian series for Disney Plus, and do we know the exact title?
I don't think it has one.
Yeah, I don't think it does either, actually. I think, yeah, but we know it's Cassian Andor centered.
Right.
And Alan Tudyk is going to come back and voice K2SO, and it's going to be almost
excited.
like, so it almost sounds like it's going to be kind of a buddy cop almost thing, but based on, centered around those characters from Rogue One. And that got announced at the same time as Obi-Wan, and we just keep forgetting that, and I think a lot of people actually have forgotten.
I haven't heard anyone really talk about it, so I don't know.
Everybody's so excited. Well, one, about The Mandalorian.
Yes.
And then two, also about the possibilities of Obi-Wan.
Oh my God, I'm so excited
and
for
so
Obi-Wan.
I think that one just kind of fell by the wayside. And then there's all these rumors about this other Star Wars series. So that one kind of fell. So apologies to everyone. But thank you to one of you guys that actually pointed that out and corrected us on that.
Can we talk about Alan Tudyk for a second, though? This guy is everywhere in the nerd world. Everywhere,
really
especially right now. So Mr. Nobody for Doom Patrol, which was the DC Universe app streaming service. He's also the voice of Joker for the Harley Quinn animated series.
Right, that's true.
The DC animated universe or DC Universe streaming app. And then now he's doing
K2SO.
He had another big role. I'm like, he's doing that too. And he
was in Firefly, wasn't he?
Oh yeah. That's like kind of where.
Yeah, but I mean that's
that was a long time
deep
ago.
in the nerd world.
But like I'm talking about just like current, like he's doing all these right now. Yeah. Like that's like 3 roles that we know he's actively currently doing because the Harley Quinn series and Doom Patrol are probably going to get second seasons, and then the Cassian K2SO series, I would imagine if they're anything like The Mandalorian, those seasons are going to go forever because we're just going to constantly throw our money to it.
Right.
So, but I love me some Alan Tudyk.
I do too. He's great and he's hilarious.
He is. iRobot is the first thing I actually didn't really. I won't say I didn't like it. I've just never seen, so I can't say I didn't like it. I've never seen Firefly. I know that's probably gonna,
really good.
Deduct some nerd points right here, but I've never seen Firefly. That is my confession to all of you people. I am sorry.
You have to watch that, man.
I do.
That's
I do.
A great one.
I hear that's because everyone's like, that's Joss Whedon's like one of his best movies, and then he obviously did the first Avengers.
You know what that goes into for me? Did you ever watch Battlestar Galactica, the new one?
Piece. I didn't finish it, but episodes.
It's not new.
Okay. Yeah.
I said that wrong. The most recent.
So it's just fun sci-fi, just like
totally.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like it's like Star Trek.
Okay.
Babylon.
I can get down with that.
You know what I mean? Or something like that, where it's just like it's a little bit older now, actually, the Battlestar Galactica, and so is Firefly. But it's just they're well written. They're just tons of fun. So if you really like sci-fi, those are a lot of fun to get down on.
Yeah, I actually been one of my New Year's resolutions is I'm trying to watch more movies because obviously I read a lot of comics and stuff like that. But I'm like, for some reason this day and age, at least me personally, do you find yourself you're just playing on your phone like for nonsense type stuff? You know what I mean?
I mean, yeah, especially when you're on the throne.
Yeah, like obviously I check my Twitter. Wow. Of course, Ballistic Baseball. That's like the best like on the throne game. Anyway,
it's a Game of Thrones. Oh, boo! I apologize to the group.
Yeah. So like you check your Instagram, you check your social, emails, all that stuff. But like you're just doing stuff. It's like I don't really need to be doing this. I'm just killing time. It's like I could spend that like time watching like a good movie or a story or something like that. So I'm trying to like even my free time, I'm trying to even manage my free time more to like actually like content that I'd rather be watching than just like scrolling through like eBay on my freaking phone or what have you. You know what I mean? So with that said, I want to watch Firefly, all these movies. I'm basically gonna make a list. I just watched Crawl.
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
Start checking them off.
Yeah. Start checking them off and get through some because there's so many movies, like classic movies that I've never seen The Godfather.
I know.
I've never seen Godfather.
You are one of the biggest offenders.
How crazy is that?
When it comes to classic, iconic films that have not been seen.
It's crazy. Like I've seen pretty much all like, the genre, like, comic movies, obviously, and stuff like that. But like a lot of just like world renowned, like Godfather. I've never seen Scarface.
Crazy.
I don't know. I'm sure.
Haven't you also not seen all of the Lord of the Rings movies?
No, I've seen one. Yeah, I've seen them all.
Oh, you've seen them all once?
Just in theaters.
Okay.
So
All
it's
right.
so I will say it's been so long since I've seen them.
Okay, so you've seen all of the original Star Wars films.
Of course.
Okay. Just making sure. I'm trying to remember. There was something like that you haven't
Star
seen.
Wars. Well, you know I've seen. You mean Lord of the Rings?
You've seen all the Star Wars the movies, the originals, and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
I'm trying to remember. There was something else like that you told me that you hadn't seen, and I was like, what?
It might have been No, because I've seen Lord of the Rings. Maybe.
Oh, is it The Hobbit? The Hobbit
No,
movies?
I haven't seen the last one. I didn't see the last.
So
I didn't see the third one.
I didn't
see the third one, and I haven't seen. Oh my gosh, what was it? It was just there. All the Star Trek movies. I haven't seen all the Star Trek movies.
You have not?
Have not.
Are you talking about the originals or not J.J. Abrams' newer ones?
No, yeah, I've seen all those. The originals, the Patrick Stewart and freaking.
Kirk, Captain Kirk,
yes,
and Spock, and all of that.
But to be fair, I like Star Trek and I like the new J.J. Abrams ones, but I lean more to the Star Wars side. Not saying I don't like true sides, but I just naturally are more drawn to Star Wars than Star Trek. So I put my time there.
I definitely am a much bigger Star Wars fan, but I love Star Trek too.
Yeah.
I'm actually gonna watch that new Picard series.
It does look good.
That's coming out on CBS.
I probably wouldn't understand it as much because I'm sure there's a lot of Easter eggs to throw back and stuff.
Yeah, to the next generation.
And it's Trek, not Trek.
Star Trek. Yeah. So, but the original movies. I grew up watching the original movies.
Okay.
They were obviously the first few were way before I was old enough to watch them. But when I got old enough, there was still the Captain Kirk and what's his name who played Captain Kirk? I'm having a
William Shatner.
William Shatner, thank you. William Shatner, Leonard Nimoy, and that whole original cast was still doing movies when I was in my 12, 13, 14 years old.
Yeah.
They were finalizing their films. So we went back and we watched all the originals. So I grew up with that stuff. That's gotta be fun. And I love especially the fourth one where they go back in time. I'm not going to explain it because you haven't seen it. But
I need to do
there's a couple that are really fun.
But see, that's the benefit too for stuff because I was late on Breaking Bad. I didn't watch Breaking Bad until the final season was released on Netflix.
Really?
So, but it worked in my favor as that way I got to watch the whole series all the way through. So I'm gonna do that again I'm gonna try to get through a bunch of stuff like that. I'll do Star Trek, and then I've seen Lord of the Rings, but I want to watch them again because it's been so long. Because I was 12 when they were in theaters, so it'll kind of be like watching them for the first time in a way.
And with the new series coming out, man, you gotta get refreshed.
Yeah, it's true.
Or read the books.
I gotta catch up. I could read the books.
A lot more detail in those books, I'll tell you that.
But let's move on. Some comic book news that as of Batman issue 93 in the comics, obviously, we're going to be getting a Batman Joker war. Mm-hmm. Now, at this time, there's not too much to be said about it besides the fact that with James Tynion's run, we were getting a new villain called the Designer. Obviously, they're not going to give away, what's going on in that because that's several issues from now as we're on issue 86 at this current time. But by the end of the Designer run with Batman, which is going to leave Batman in ruins and, a lot of problems in Gotham, it's going to make him come head to head with the Joker and basically split Gotham in half. It seems very similar to what Tom King did with the Riddler in the Joker, but now it's Batman and the Joker, and I'm very excited, but I'm very worried. I'm very excited because I'm a massive Batman fan, obviously, and I'm a massive Joker fan, so seeing a war with Gotham City can be awesome. But the caveat to that would be is I feel like they've been using Joker too much in comics recently.
Yep.
It's one of those things where it's I feel like he needs to go away for a year or two.
Right.
Because Snyder's used him a ton. Because Snyder's whole thing is he went to the lineage of the Joker and what the meaning of their relationship was and how with Gotham. So he used them a lot and, because that's Batman's arch nemesis. But because of that and all the different storylines he's been in, then we got the Batman Who Laughs, who's kind of a hybrid of Batman Joker, so it's kind of another Joker character we have. I feel like we just need, the main Joker to go away for a little bit because I feel like the Joker is kind of like that trump card, right?
Right.
Because he is the Batman villain. Right. He is the guy. So if he's gone in comics for a year or two, and then you tease at the end of an issue for the beginning of a next story arc that the Joker's back, you're like, oh crap, what's gonna happen? But since he's been in so many Batman stories over the last several years, it's kind of okay, I love you, but you need to go away for a while so I could want you again. You know what I mean?
Yeah. We need to separate for a while.
Right.
Yeah, you actually just vocalized exactly my feelings on it as soon as we heard it. Is I was like, another Joker, because I mean, we're still waiting on the 3 Joker story from Jeff Johns.
Exactly.
I mean, there's just been so much, and I just feel like there's other characters that can be mined for some really great storytelling.
Yeah.
I also think that we can, we got a new character coming with the designer. We don't know who he is, what he is. Scott Snyder has introduced quite a few brand new characters. And but even a lot of the new characters that Scott Snyder has introduced have been Joker centric, with the Batman Who Laughs and stuff, like you mentioned. So it's like, I think that we can, let's look to explore some new things and some new concepts for, like you said, for a little while, give it a rest, and then come back with a bang. Because it is starting to feel a little bit excessive. At the same time, it could be a great story.
Could be, yeah.
Whatever. But yeah, a break might be due soon.
Well, it's crazy too, because Batman, I get it too, because I listen to lots of podcasts and interviews with writers and creators, and when you get on a Batman book, it's like, who are you going to want to tell a story about when you finally, because most of these guys are only going to get on this, write Batman like once in their lifetime. It's like the ultimate achievement in comics, to get on Batman. Like it's a known thing within the industry. Like if you do Batman, you're set. Right. Like you are good if you've done a story arc on like the main Batman title. So, to be fair, I kind of see, when you finally get it, you're like, well, I want to tell my Batman Joker story. Yeah. Because those are the guys. But at the same time, like, Batman has one of, if not the best rogues gallery in all of comics. It's like him and Spider-Man. It's like everyone's like, yeah, those two have the best rogues. So, I want a good ventriloquist story. I think getting a good ventriloquist story would be dope. I don't think we've gotten one in DC Rebirth, because what's crazy is a lot of those, like ventriloquist and stuff in Scarecrow,
Puppet Master,
all that stuff. They only usually get like 4-issue story arcs. Right. I want like a year story to really dive into the psyche, especially if someone like the ventriloquist and stuff like that. I mean, he was in, Tom King's recent run, and he was working with Bane and all that stuff, but he was kind of in the background a little bit. So I want something that really dives into the psyche of someone who's schizo, like, because how scary would that be if there was a guy who genuinely thought that this puppet was real and controlled him, but it's really that guy who's doing everything, but that guy, it's a mental illness, so he doesn't think he's doing anything bad. He thinks it's this thing. That's terrifying. Yeah. So I think you could do some really cool stuff with that, exploring that, and that would be my pick, because we just got a really good story. I love Mr. Freeze. He's probably one of my he's in my top 3 Batman villains, but Peter Tomasi just did a nice little run in Detective Comics with Mr. Freeze. So I would have said Mr. Freeze, but we just got a pretty good one by Tomasi. So
I think that another one that hasn't been mined in a while, and I think there's some really good stories that could be told, is still Harvey Dent Two-Face. Again, going back to that psychological element, that split personality, and he's also a mobster.
And he's really good friends with Bruce.
He's a politician. That personal angle between him and Bruce. I think there's just so many things that you could explore there. I think doing something like a going to war with Batman type event, with him, could be something really cool too. I'm a big Two-Face fan. Right. He was one of my favorite characters in the animated series as well. I've just always really loved that character. And my favorite Batman villain is the Riddler. Yeah, that's my favorite Batman villain. They just did an event with him, with Tom King, and that was a lot of fun. But I think that Two-Face is one that could also be mined. And they could do some really cool stuff with that, I think. For
sure. And this actually kind of leads us into something we were discussing that we want to do next week on the podcast, which is we want to start having, obviously we're going to always report on news and stuff like that, but we want to start talking about things we want to see, or just kind of topics. Like the first idea we had, we want to introduce, is basically pick, let's say, 3 characters you think deserve a live action movie, and then we'll just go off it, back and forth.
And we can even branch out. We could do like live action movies, or see some sort of a rejuvenation or give a new life in comics.
For sure.
Maybe some deep characters that haven't really been seen in a while.
Oh yeah, no, sky's the limit. That's just that's what
we could maybe touch on a couple of things. Yeah, the like we've talked about at the beginning. I don't know if it was beginning of the year or the end of last year, maybe both. But we, this year we're going to be leading into a bunch of new stuff for the show. We're going to be bringing on guests and things like that, but we are going to start breaking into some fun segments where we talk about things because, we like talking about the news and stuff like that and when things come up, but this show is really designed. We built it to really get into some deeper elements and talk about deeper things of comics. So we can, we want to do, break down some of the, comics most or biggest debates. Who would win between Superman and Batman, stuff like that.
Digital versus print.
Right. And really get into some of that and, and talk it out and also take questions from all of you. So that's another thing that we want to do coming up here in the next couple of weeks.
Do some giveaways on here too.
Yep,
maybe?
do some giveaways. So in the next couple of weeks, we're going to be putting out on our social media, we're going to be putting out, Ask Us Anything. And we're going to be taking and drawing some of those questions and we're going to be answering them here on the show as well. So we're going to be doing a lot of fun stuff. But yeah, like next week, we're going to tackle that, right?
Yeah, characters we think deserve some spotlight in the live action. Because I know.
So we want to do just movies?
We can do TV shows, TV and movies.
So 3 characters that each of us would like to see
either
get the live action treatment.
Yes, either a TV or a movie or both. Because I'm like, perfect example was Moon Knight was one for the longest time.
Yeah,
Moon Knight, and now we know he's getting a Disney Plus series. So something to that effect. What 3 characters would, if you were in charge, you'd be like, they're getting a movie or TV show.
Okay.
I think that's good.
I'm down. I'm down for that. I already got 2 in mind right now.
But that's going to be our tease because we're going to wrap up for today.
Yeah, today's going to be a short one because, like we said, there wasn't a ton to talk about this week.
But some good stuff, though.
There was some good stuff.
Very excited. I'm still like, when I think about, I've watched that Flash scene with Grant Gustin and Ezra Miller so many times on freaking YouTube. I don't even care.
You're still on a full-blown nerd high right now.
Dude, Flash 2 Worlds. Love it. But with that said, everyone, we'll see you guys next week when we talk about all things comics.